Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining. Really excited with today. It's our first webinar with Noloco. Looking at attendee list, I'm sure you're all kind of aware of Noloco at this point and kind of what we do. And I know some of you are in the trial stage, some of you are already customers. So big welcome to all of you. We're so excited to have you all here. Today, hosting our first webinar, as I said, getting started with Noloco, discovering the power of business apps powered by Noloco and Airtable. It's going to be a really, really great session. I'm joined here by Alex, who will go through intros in a second, but he's got a really, really impressive demo to go through. But first, some housekeeping, real quick. This webinar is being recorded, as you can kind of see from my screen. The recording will be sent to everyone at the end of this call as well, actually. So if you're kind of worried about missing a few minutes, or if you've missed the first 30 seconds already, don't worry, you can catch up after the call as well, which obviously means if you want to kind of rewatch part of Alex's demo, you're welcome to do that. We'll be taking questions after Alex's demo, so feel free to throw them in the kind of chat throughout, and I'll be curating them and asking them towards the end. Unless there's kind of a load of questions, I won't be kind of interrupting Alex to ask any questions from the crowd, but we do really want some questions. And of course, some of you might have noticed we are giving away a few spot prizes to some of the best questions that we see. So do get thinking about what you can ask, and we'd love to hear what you have to ask. So lastly, the webinar will be about 60 minutes in total, so we'll be finishing up at the end of the hour, at the end of the half hour, so to speak. So I think that's it from the kind of housekeeping stuff. I'll be moving on to a quick intro. So if you don't know me already, my name's Dara McKay. I'm going to just tell everyone how to pronounce my name now because everyone struggles. It's Dara. You can ignore the G and the H. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Noloco. I've built Noloco kind of from the ground up, built an incredible team around it, and now we're kind of building a network of experts and customers around it. So really, really excited to do our first webinar. I'm really, really happy to be joined by Alex, who was one of the kind of first experts to really kind of double down on Noloco. Alex, would you be able to give yourself a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. My name is Alex Wisniewski. Dara didn't dare pronounce my surname. So although I told her like never mind. So yeah, I'm the founder of Sonorus. We've been doing exclusively no-code, low-code development for the best part of the last 6 years, maybe a little bit more, as a freelancer. But yeah, we've been aware of Noloco before, when it was just no. Now it's a little bit more than that. And yeah, we're really excited to be a part of this really, really, really powerful, well, the community, of course, but also be a part of the whole like experts circle.
No, it's great having you. The Sonorus team are exceptional team. They've got I don't know how many people you have at the moment, but probably bigger than us.
But about 12.
Yeah,
we're about 12.
So you're doing a great job. You've grown a huge amount. So it's been great work with you. So quick agenda. I'm going to quickly kind of go through the webinar objectives in a moment and kind of the overview. And then, like I mentioned, Alex is going to do a really impressive demo of, I'll let Alex give an overview of the demo. There'll be kind of a demo will be broken into two parts, hopefully. And then we'll save Q&A at the end. And then off the back of the Q&A, we'll be doing some spot prizes. So I guess, the objectives of this webinar are, of course, to learn a bit more about Noloco. For those that are kind of joining for the first time, Noloco is a no-code platform to instantly turn your data into an app. So we allow you to build internal tools, client portals, custom CRMs, partner portals, anything you really need off the back of your data, whether your data is stored in Airtable, Google Sheets, Xano, Postgres, MySQL, and soon SmartSuite. So wherever you need, or if you just want to use our own tables, we kind of have you covered. And more importantly, experts like Alex and his incredible team at Sonorus can kind of assist you in that journey. Alex will be walking us through a quick demo of some incredible things he's built. Alex, can you give me a real high-level overview of what you're going to be building for us today, or showing for us today?
Cool. Yes, of course. So from a really high level, this is a quoting system based on two user roles. One, the sales rep, and number two, the accountant, who basically needs to take that accepted quote and turn it into an invoice. The major part, of course, is the sales person, because the sales guy, and I've met a lot of them in my professional career, they always like to have all the options in the world to better sell a product. This particular example circles around the business model of a billboard advertising agency. They sell billboards on the side of the road. And yeah, it's a bit
we're all familiar with, I suppose.
Yeah, of course, everybody's familiar with that. So you can customize a billboard in so many ways. You can have better lighting, you want it quickly installed, you want to have like a little countdown timer, you know, super special sort of thing. So what we're going to demo in a sec circles around the ability to quickly create a quote. Not only that, but also make sure that have enough options and enough options to choose from. And also we're going to see how the client receives the quote themselves. We're going to be using Make in conjunction with Pandadoc to generate a modular quote. A lot of people in this sales game, sales reps, typically resort to, you know, having a Word template or an Excel template and copy pasting client names and adding line items, just pasting them in and then pressing print, and that generates a PDF, and they have to open up an email that nobody ever tracks. Yeah. And it's really long. Here, within
we see that all the time,
60 seconds, we're gonna be able to less than 60 seconds maybe, not only generate a quote, but send it. And we're going to give the client the option to choose, cherry pick what optional items they might want, sign the doc, and async. You'll see how that will update Noloco without us even having to refresh our screens. Our dashboard will be updated, and our quote status will be updated as well. So,
amazing.
Sorry, not exactly a nutshell, but
no, I mean, it's a complicated system. But I think the beauty of this example is that, you know, while we're talking specifically about a billboard company, it's so transferable to any other domain, whether you're selling gardening services or, you know, construction work. Truly, it's kind of anyone who needs to kind of send an invoice that has different products and services that can be optional or mandatory and quantified or otherwise, who wants to track that process and just automate it a bit more generally. So I think without further ado, do you want to jump into the demo?
Yeah, sure.
I'll hand over to you.
Of course. All right, let me just share my screen.
Please.
Okay, cool. So this is the basic dashboard that.
Hang on.
Can you see my screen just yet?
I'm still seeing my screen. Do I need to hit stop share? I suppose I should.
All right.
I see your screen now. Sorry. There we have it.
Awesome.
Okay.
So sales guys love a dashboard. I think part of our process generally is to focus a lot on who's going to be using the app. So with that in mind, part of what people really, really want is a dashboard. Sales guys especially, because they need to know how much they need to chase? Have they met their targets? So this dashboard specifically, and everything about it, even the target that you can see here, and this particular module, and the number that you can see printed, it's all dynamic. So I can set dynamic targets to every person. How much is this sales guy's target versus how much that guy's target is? And
this is all powered by an Airtable base, is it?
Actually, the targets and the profiles are powered by Noloco.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe it's I mean, later on I'll show you the structure of the database, which is super simple.
Afterwards.
We only have like 4 tables. So yeah, the dashboard is a crucial part of this. But I think the bread and butter of the whole system is the quotes and the generation of the quotes. So let's hit quotes. Right now, I only have 1 quote in the system. Let's create a new one. Press new quotes, pick a client, I want to add line items to this quote. Press new. What kind of a what kind of a line item do you want? And this is showcasing something that we as an agency struggle to find in a lot of other low-code products, and that is the ability to filter down lists dynamically. What do I mean by that? If you take a look at my structure in my database, and this is a bit of a techie thing, but all of my products are all lined out in one single table. My billboards, my services, and even my custom works, they're all products, right? So with Noloco, I can choose a product type, and then my list of products gets filtered based on that choice, which is incredibly powerful. So if I choose custom works, then my list of products will only include, you guessed it, custom works. And later on, you'll see how I'm going to be able to add more. So let's do that. Billboards. Billboard. I only have 1 billboard. Then the contract duration, I can choose that, and that plays a role. And now you see another filtration where I'm filtering out any billboards and any custom products, and I can only see my services, like my optional services that I want to give to the client. And let's say I want to give them the option to choose quick installation and premium lighting. That's it. Press save.
Wow.
That's now been added. And let's say I also want to add a custom thing. Like, let's say I want to add a custom works.
Just to pause you there, this is the same form, right? But because you chose
this is literally the same form.
Brand new section. Yeah, exactly. Brand new section showed up. That's exactly. So flexible.
And here I can actually say, and this is another interesting part, something that other services also struggle to do. I can force the user, because I'm impersonating a sales guy right now, I can force the user to give me the right text. So here I need not just to provide a description, but it also has to be more than 15 characters long. And I set that up. This is just one of the examples of how you can force people to give you the correct text and not just make a field required. So let's say add custom countdown timer to show days left to big event, something like that. And I can also give it a custom price, because this is, we're creating products out of thin air, basically. Press save.
Absolutely. Probably something that was discussed on a phone call with the client, and now you're kind of sending it over the official quote. Excellent.
Technically, you could be on the call and running and do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's quite like click, 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 done. This is an interesting little part, which we added only like yesterday. In fact, no, tell a lie, today. Client notes. Nice. I want to include client notes at the bottom of my quote. So I know my client's name is John. So, hey, John, thanks for the call earlier. Let me know if this is okay. Alex. That's it. Press save.
Nice.
Now, for the eagle-eyed among us, I don't know if you noticed it, but our quotes, our pipeline has grown instantly. I didn't refresh the screen. I didn't do anything, but my pipeline has grown. Yeah, and I can see it also here where it's broken down by day. So yeah, the next step is we just go back to that quote number 28, and send it. There's not much else to do. Press send. This is now instantly going to be sent. And after a few seconds, let me see if I can showcase this.
So just to kind of clarify, everyone, you've gone back to your quotes table and you've clicked into it to see the kind of overview of that quote, right? And you've just used an action button to send that quote. And we can dive into exactly how that works in a minute.
Yep. So the next thing that I want to show you is my email mailbox. So John now has received the quote. And it's this one down here. Hi, John, please see quote attached. Open document. I want you to notice something that will happen behind over here. It's going to go from sent. Oh, sorry, we're actually looking at the wrong quote. There we go. So as I'm opening up, as the quote is opening up, that, I don't know if you noticed it, but that instantly changed to seen without me having to refresh anything. It's again, something that is, I think it's almost unique to Noloco. We're, for the techie, geeky guys who care about this kind of thing, we're using Noloco's GraphQL layer to push async changes to our front end. But that works in two ways. Not only does it update our front end, it also updates our Airtable instantly at the same second.
And that can be done through Make and Zapier, right?
Yeah, exactly. Through Make and Zapier, you can achieve you can achieve exactly the same effect. So back to John. So John now is greeted with a custom quote where he can select only specific things that he cares about. Let's say he wants quick installation, but he doesn't want to have 10x more lights so that his billboard will be visible from space. He can customize this as much as he wants. And also I can see my remarks. Now,
so they just got pulled in straight from your form.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's say John calls me up and says, Al, you know what? For some weird reason, can you remove custom works out of this quote? Not a problem. Well, in this case, a slight problem. Why? Because I haven't got a means to a way to delete an item. How do we do that? And this is a quick little intro into how easy it is to customize Noloco. So all I have to do is just jump into build mode. Not all sales rep will have access to this. Sales reps will have access to go into build mode. You can control that, who you give build mode permissions to. But let's say I do, and I do. I'm just going to jump into build mode, click on my line items, go into buttons, and record buttons, add a button, edit that button. Let's call this delete. Actions. What should happen? I want to delete a record. And you have a lot of other options, like you can navigate to another page, you can create another record, you can run an on-demand workflow, which is literally what we used here in the send quote. So behind that button is literally that run an on-demand workflow that sends a payload to make, or it could be Zapier, and it runs a process in the background that generates that quote. So in this case, I need to delete a record. So delete what record? This record. Of course, you can delete other things, which is also quite cool.
Let's stick with the line item, I suppose.
Yeah. Let's make this a scary button. So danger. Let's make it red. And yes, I want the execution to be in the modal. And are you sure you would like to delete this record? And that's literally it. I jump out of build mode just by toggling this little toggle. Delete. Are you sure you would like to delete this record? Confirm. And that record instantly gets deleted. Now I can send the quote again. And it will go back into send. John will get another quote. We're just waiting for John to get the quotes. There it is. And here I'm opening it up. Here's that quote. And it's going to go, as soon as it loads up, it will go into scene.
And that's so valuable because it allows the sales rep to just kind of keep in the loop. It allows them to track, you know, who's engaging with their quotes. Do they need to do a follow-up? That's so great.
Exactly. And just additional services, no custom stuff, no custom things like we saw here.
Very cool.
What is left to do is simply for John to start, sign. Many of you might be thinking, sign, that's good for e-signatures, but what if I wanted John to prepay? Of course, we can also include like payment, a payment thing where they can not only sign, but they can also pay. So sign, accept and sign, finish. And now this is going to go from seen to accepted. Again, I'm not doing anything. It's just going to go into accepted. And we're going to also see an accepted value.
Wow.
Over here.
There it is.
So that's the core workflow.
That's great. So you've kind of gone through sending a quote. The rep has been able to see that it's been seen by the client, by the customer, and now they can kind of be notified and they can kind of keep track of which ones are accepted, how much was accepted. As you said, if it wasn't, if the full amount wasn't accepted, they can see that. That's wonderful. That's so valuable.
Dara, how are we on time? Do I have a little bit of extra time to showcase the accountant who now has to?
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask.
It?
Yeah, so there's the other kind of persona in this saga. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. So to impersonate another user, most of you guys probably know this, but we need to view this as another user. And I have this other guy called Mike Jones. So Mike Jones has got a quote to process. Also, his dashboard is different to what's it called? To the dev team guy, to the sales rep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and now here, this is another interesting example of the stuff that you can do. Some like products sometimes in the low-code sphere struggle with navigation. One of the coolest things about Noloco that I like is the ability to add dividers. I know this is basic, but it's not basic always. Add dividers, add folders. So this what you see here, quotes dash accounts. That's just a folder. It's not a table or something.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the whole goal of this app is to, make the spreadsheet, the data behind the spreadsheets, less scary and more intuitive, right? So, you know, even simple things like the navigation is crucial, really, to kind of the adoption within your grander team.
One of the earliest signs that Noloco was really cool, I will never forget. I think it was like March last year, like super early. Just through Slack, I messaged the Noloco team and I told them, guys, wouldn't it be nice if we can just hide this? And okay, don't take this as gospel, but within like a couple of days, we now had this little this little tab that would hide the navigation buttons. And now, yes, and it's so useful. And I was like, wow, okay, now that I like. So anyway, our friend Mike Jones has got some quotes.
So as a reminder, Mike's the accountant that has to kind of process the quote once it's been accepted, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So Mike can do this in a couple of ways. I mean, right now, as you can see, Mike cannot edit anything about this quote. There's no edit buttons. Mm-hmm. There's no, he can't do anything. So the only ways that he can process this is either through selecting it and doing like a mass. So if I had more quotes, I would be able to quickly select all of them and mark them all as processed. Or just a single button right next to that single quote. So mark as processed. And now it disappears from that list and it goes into my processed list. Once a quote has been processed.
That's just an action button that kind of changes the state.
Exactly. Okay. But there's more. There's more behind it. Because not only does it process it and changes the status, but it also prints timestamps when it was processed and by whom. So literally in the database itself, we have just a pure text. Well,
and that audit trail is so important for a lot of people, right?
Exactly. So there's accountability. Who processed this? Who invoiced the client? Oh, I can see it was Mike. And then you can have a chat with Mike.
Exactly. So we had a really interesting question. I'm going to cut you off for a second, Alex. We had a great question there from Matan, who asked around in regards to sending quotes. Is there an integration for Stripe or QuickBooks that can allow us to collect payments from clients and then automatically mark the invoice as paid? I guess, you know, how would you approach that, Alex? You know, obviously, I guess I can answer from the Noloco side. There's no specific Stripe or QuickBooks integration, but, you know, swapping out, you know, Pandadoc for something different that kind of formulates invoices would certainly be possible, right?
Yes, absolutely. Fully agree.
Yeah. So, you know, you would just kind of wire it up to Stripe or QuickBooks to do the same, and you would let Stripe or QuickBooks send out that email. You might even be able to, if you had a more of a client portal, you'd be able to bring the kind of invoice links back into your app, so that they can see the invoice links. And obviously then you could do anything like hiding the pay now button when it's actually paid, and kind of, again, doing all of the tracking based on those events. It would just be a slightly different setup, right?
Yeah, exactly. It depends. Like what you said is 100% true. The execution, the flavor of what we want to see kind of depends on your requirements. The easiest ways are usually the stuff like I've just showcased, where you're basically emailing something to somebody. But what you also suggested, Dara, if the idea is that I want to pay for my invoice right here from the portal, it's also doable. And depending on what systems your company is already using, Stripe, Xero, QuickBooks, and so forth, or other gateways, usually if there is an API, that's a good sign that things are possible. I'm not saying
Yeah,
if there
I
is an
mean,
API,
all
there's
of
a
those
way.
tools have make and Zapier integrations that
Yeah,
usually
exactly.
with the right technical, right expertise, you know, you can get what you need to do. This is,
Absolutely.
you know, I think it's a great question, Matt, and thanks for that. Yeah, I'd love to kind of dive into this dashboard aspect before we kind of move into the kind of, or actually, before we do that, it would be great to kind of see a little bit about how that quotes flow worked. I think that's kind of actually about it before we kind of go too far away from that. So just to remind everyone, you know, the sales rep just generated a quote in Noloco, which you know, created a record or a few records, the line items and the quote in Airtable.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And then I guess then what happened, Alex?
Well, then we have make.
Yeah.
So as soon as you press send, that sends a webhook to make. Now, this is the scenario. It looks complicated, but it's not. It's only 3 parts. These parts are the first part over here, which simply fetches the webhook or the signal from Noloco. One thing that'll make abundantly clear is that Noloco somehow magically sends their webhooks the millisecond you press the button. There's no delay. Sometimes there is a delay, like a noticeable, maybe 1 second from the moment that you press a button to the moment that Make or Zapier actually kick in. Here, with Noloco for the last year and a half, it's instantaneous. I mean, I don't, sometimes when I'm testing these systems, I don't have enough time to switch tabs to go from pressing the button to actually tracking and monitoring what's going on with the automation.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's been so key to the way we set it all up, because you know, some of these integrations are really important. I mean, they're all really important, but you know, the liveliness of them is really important. So kind of getting those webhooks out as soon as possible, responding to all, activating our workflows. Yeah, they're near instant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you catch the webhook, it fetches things from Airtable, I'm guessing.
Yep. So catch the webhook, get the quote, and get the client. We're just basically collecting a little bit of information.
Yeah.
Then this long thing here that looks scary isn't that scary. If you look at it, it's made up of 3 parts. The first part is where we collect.
Organized. I'll give you the credit for that.
Thank you. So the first part basically collects the baseline products, our billboards, basically.
Yeah.
The second part, and one thing I want you to notice is that I'm also throwing some like quote updates behind the scenes. Every quote has got a status, last updated status, and I'm actually updating that with values as I go along, so that then I can troubleshoot it and I can see what data it has had before, basically.
It's very helpful.
Behind the scenes, quiet things. So yeah, the second part basically collects all the additional products from each individual line item, because I could create a quote with multiple basic items like a dashboard, like billboard 1, billboard 2, and such. And it will basically compiles the additional products into a little bundle. Let's call it a bundle.
Yeah.
And then the next part, you guessed it, it just compiles custom works. So you have baseline products, additional items, custom works, and then it's just a matter of creating a Pandadoc at its core.
Very good.
where I'm
And
mapping.
this is where you'd kind of
Yes.
swap in something like Stripe or
Yeah, exactly,
QuickBooks
exactly, literally.
yeah, yeah,
Bingo.
yeah.
Yes, it's literally that. The most complicated thing about this is that at the end of the day, you have a pricing table. And for those of you who might be wondering, I literally used one of Pandadoc's templates. So I went into templates, template gallery, scroll down to sales quote template.
Nice.
And then as soon as it opened up, I changed the logo and the colors and the color over here.
So pretty easy to get started. Nice.
I did not change anything else bar the client notes today. That's the only thing that I've added.
Nice.
So
in the interest of time, so it gets back to Noloco then, right?
It gets back to Noloco. Yes.
Yeah.
It gets back to Noloco.
At that point then.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more.
There's a little bit more because
I'd love to kind of see how some of the some of the filters that you've done on those forms are done. I think that was really interesting to some people.
Some of the filters
in particular that you can.
Oh yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
On the creating new quotes. Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting to explore a little bit.
Again,
so again, as a reminder, so you turn on build mode. This is where you entered the client that it was sent to. You entered the line items. I think there's a few things that stood out to me. In your quote line items field there, I think you disabled the ability to select existing records, right? Because line items are always going to be new, right?
Yeah, that is such a little thing, such a detail, but it makes all the difference in the world. Let me show you how. If I didn't have this option, this is what I would be greeted with every time I want to create a new quote.
And this is where sales reps would just make mistakes, right? They're like, what line item is that? What customer is that for? And, you'd be mixing and matching all sorts of things. But this just allows you to kind of get the exact data that you need into your quote, right? Every single time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
And then what was the other part that was filtered out, right? Or I guess that's actually on the other page, right? The products are this form here. It's when
I create a quote. So this part.
This is where all the magic really happens, isn't it? The line item form.
Yeah. Okay, so there's not a lot of magic, but ultimately there's some hidden fields. So the quote does not need to be shown. It's implied, and that happens almost magically because if you take a look inside of the if I go into a new quote and want to add a new line item, you don't see it.
This is the quote form
because because it's implied. The way that it's implied, you kind of have to tick a box. You have to go into quote line items, edit, and I think what form should be used, quote line items. But I reckon that's it. I don't think there is anything else.
Noloco automatically pulls in the default form for any of your other tables. I'd love to kind of show everyone how the line item options are filtered, because I think this is great, because you've got a few things going on here. You've got a few sections that show or hide depending on what product type you selected, right? So you've got the choose a product. I presume you're using conditional visibility for those.
Exactly. Yes. So when it comes to choosing products, this particular part, the billboards versus custom works, that exists in two places. It exists as a product, as a single select in Airtable on the quote line item, level,
Okay.
but also that same drop down exists as a product type inside of products. So then all I have to do in order to filter down this list, because here I've chosen billboards and my product is billboard. If I choose custom works, my product is custom works. The connection is super easy because all I have to do is, well, jump into the product and then over here
So this is
say
the product field.
Exactly. If let me show you how to do this without it even being there. So let's say I choose a billboard. Now there's no filter and everything's there.
So you just see all of your product. And
Exactly.
again, it's just letting people make mistakes, right? Because you could have a custom works that chooses Billboard 101 as a product, which just doesn't make any sense.
100%. So to apply a filter,
not only would that probably break your integration, right? So it's crucial that these are validated before the data is created.
Exactly. That is a very good point. I was driven by user experience first, because in our line of work you have to fix all kinds of stuff that happen haphazardly. So from a technical perspective, I didn't care. It was more along the lines of I wanted to filter. Because I've chosen billboards, I just want billboards. So super easy to set up the filter. Just click on the product on the edit button, and then just press and select a field. Now it's important to note that these fields are the fields of the line item, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or no, the other way around. These fields are the fields of the product. And then you have to compare them to the fields from this record. So that would be the product type select. So that's that. Let's see. Billboards. Billboard.
Now it's filtered. That's brilliant.
And now it's filtered. It's so freaking easy. And you were just saying
you've just
about
kind of done
sections.
the same sort of thing for. I'd love to see how you've done that actually, because we haven't touched on visibility rules.
Sections work in a very similar way. So let's say we have the billboard section over here that also contains the contract duration and the optional services that you can have against the billboard. So super easy to do. Every single section, and you can create a section just by pressing this add section. Edit that section and only show when conditions are met. Make sure that you tick that. The form values product type select. In other words, the value that I've selected over here, product type select, is equal to billboards. And the product is not empty. So not only do I have to choose a billboard, I also have to, the product type billboards, I also have to choose a product in order for.
And that just allows you to make sure the sales rep is focusing on one thing at a time, right?
Exactly. I was thinking about Typeform. When I was doing this, I was thinking about Typeform. Those of you who are not super familiar, Typeform is like a form builder. And they were probably the first ones on the scene that I know of that had this peculiar way of form experience. Usually forms are kind of emulating paper, where it's like all the questions thrown at you like instantly. Typeform does it differently. You have to answer one question at a time, and it's this kind of like conversational vibe going on. So I was thinking about that, where I want things to happen on the page in order to give the user the ability or the sense of, okay, something's happening, or like a step-by-step.
It makes a huge difference.
Going down the funnel.
Does. I'm gonna try answer some of these questions now, because I know we only have about 12 or so minutes left. And I might as well let you keep sharing, because you might want to show some of these. What's this? but let me just go down a little further. So Akash asked about security. So I think, I'll answer this. Noloco, has a few different ways of addressing security, particularly if you're kind of dealing with, if you're pulling clients or allowing your clients to log into your app as well. So for starters, all of your data is protected behind user accounts. So everyone has to be logged into your Noloco app to access any of the data, which is not the case for a lot of people, which obviously could, if security is really important to you, that's, going to be top of mind. But then we have permissions, which we didn't touch on this in this short webinar, because honestly, you could spend an hour and a half talking about permissions in their own right. But our permissions basically allow you to say for different roles. So let's say in this case, we have the accountant role and the sales rep role, but you might have a client role as well. And you've got some set up here. Yeah. And you can basically say that a client should only see their own records, and they shouldn't be able to see some of the fields, like say internal notes and so on.
Like
or
in
they
this
should
case,
be able to update some fields like status.
In this case, processed by accounts, you can, so if you're a user role, which is the accountant role, basically, you can read a lot of the fields, and I can disable that if I want to, but you can only update processed by accounts, processed on and processed by. You never saw us editing that, but because he's pressing that button to say processed, that allows that user to actually input into those fields.
That makes sense. Totally. I say there's a huge amount more you could go into on security, but I think that'll cover that for now. There was another good question here, and Martin has very keen eyes, obviously. He asked, did the quote PDF file name also get changed to accepted _? And was this using Pandadoc's updating in the background or some other Noloco or workflow function?
Yes.
Very keen eye there, Martin.
Fantastic. So yeah, we are using, we are using make. And this is the little automation that I didn't get a chance to explain. This is super easy. Sure. It's just a listening event. It's just a listening automation, that watches documents, and depending on the status of that document sent, it will update Noloco. If the document is viewed, it will update Noloco with viewed.
Just for everyone else, those blue globes are GraphQL requests to Noloco, but you could just use our Zap or our Make integration. Alex likes to go bare metal here, and it's a little faster. So he that's why they're not quite as obvious, but that's what they are, just so everyone's kind of it's just point and click. If you're familiar with Zapier or Make, you'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, totally. So what we're doing, we are then uploading. Basically, when the quote gets assigned, we fetch that document, we download it. We're using Zero Code Kit to store that doc. And I'm also prefixing the record ID with accepted -quote. And then we're just updating Airtable with that file and updating Noloco to refresh itself, basically, behind the scenes.
Nice. Two more questions. Rade asks, is it possible to set the creation of a new element by the user to happen only once or a set amount of times? I think I've seen this asked a few times. I guess this would be if you wanted to say limit it to one line item, or say 2 or 3 line items, I suppose. I don't have a good answer for this, but maybe you've come across this before, Alex. Any thoughts?
Well, potentially. So in my engineering mind, I can see a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. Because I could hide that section. the moment
Yeah.
there is a line item in, and progress you
That's right. Yeah.
to saving, for instance.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a workaround.
Yeah.
But you kind of can achieve it in a way.
I think you could. It's definitely one for us to consider. It's not the first time we've got something similar, actually. So I'd certainly love to kind of dive into that another time. I think we have time for a few more questions before we kind of move to spot prizes. This is actually a great question from Michael. Directly to you, Alex. Can you comment on the top 2 or 3 Noloco features you use that set it apart from its competitors? I swear I didn't plant this question, but I will ask it.
Okay, top 3 for us as an agency. Like, please consider this maybe not the. This is probably my personal top 3 versus the top 3 that would come from one of our clients who just want a portal that can sing and dance. So from guy who does this for a living and has built a business around it.
Yeah.
My favorite features by far, and I know this is stupid, but filtering of lists, that is definitely top 3. GraphQL, the ability to update, refresh very quickly a lot of stuff behind the scenes and en masse, because that gives the front end experience. We just saw it with one little stupid thing changing status, right? But imagine if you had to create like a payment plan and your form would be, okay, payment plan, how many months? Give me a number, 3. How many per month? $500 a month. Save or create payment plan. Behind the scenes, within a few seconds, you'll see how Noloco's how right in front of you, you'll get the full payment plan without refreshing the page, without doing anything extra. Just that is a massive thing. And
this was a kind of great example of that as well. So I'm glad you're able to kind of demo that.
A third, I think the third top 3 thing.
Yeah.
It's an intangible thing. It's the team at Noloco itself, because especially back in the early days, we really had to rely on Dara and everybody else to help us get answers, to debug a few things. Nowadays, it's more along the lines of, Dara, are we doing this right? But the support is definitely top 3.
Well, we do really try our best, but really appreciate those honest answers, Alex. And like I've said at the top of the call, it's been absolutely fantastic work with the Sonorus team as well. I have two more minutes before I want to move to spot prizes. Matan had a good follow-up question actually around, as a reminder, his previous question was around using Stripe or QuickBooks instead of, say, PandaDoc or something like this. But his follow-up question was, assume you can swap PandaDoc for Stripe or QuickBooks. If you are looking to create a paywall for a specific report or deliverable, could you limit access to that document through Noloco until an invoice has been paid? And I think actually 100%. Like what you have here is really similar, right? Because it'd really just be about like updating some sort of status field. And using our conditional visibility rules to kind of say, look, if that status isn't paid, some other field, whatever that is kind of hidden to that end user. At least that's how I'd approach it, and I think you would do the same thing.
I agree with that approach, but I can one up it. Not only can you
I'd love to hear it.
change some kind of a field within a given record and therefore give the user more access, but you can change the user status or the user role. So you can change a whole permission set as soon as something happens. Imagine somebody going from a free user to a gold user. So you can have a whole list of permissions, and that is a cousin to one of the questions that we had previously about permissions and security.
Certainly.
So you can use security not just as a shield, you can use it as a weapon. In other words, you can take security and permissions and use them as a means to a way to change your whole user interface for those kinds of use cases where somebody has just paid, they become a premium member, and they need to see and be able to do a whole bunch of things all at once.
Yeah, that's so right. And yeah, I think a great answer to the question. And you know, I think what you're really kind of showcasing is how kind of flexible it can be. I think if you stop sharing for a moment, I just want to switch back so that we can announce some of our winners of our spot prizes. So I mentioned at the top of the call that we do have 2 spot prizes to give away, and it is our first webinar, so we're feeling generous. We've got 2 excellent Noloco hoodies to give away. Alex doesn't even have a Noloco hoodie, so you so you know, you'll hopefully 2 of you will be going home. I'm not going home one of those, but we'll get them out to you as soon as we can rather. So the first winner is Martin. I think, Martin, you asked a great question around the kind of file name and how we watched for that status, and I was really glad that Alex was able to answer that. So Martin, will be in touch afterwards to get your details. We can sort you out with a Noloco hoodie. And then secondly, Matan, for your questions around using other tools like Stripe or QuickBooks. I think it's really kind of key to see these webinars as an introduction to what's possible with Noloco, and kind of thinking, how can you adopt this workflow to your own tools? So Matan also will be in touch to sort you out with a Noloco hoodie. But look, everybody, thanks so much for today. Thanks so much, Alex, for joining me. Alex, in 30 seconds, where can people get in touch with you if they want to consult on Noloco?
You can find us on the Slack channel. You can just go to Sonorus, our name, .co.uk. You can email me at info@sonorus.co.uk. I think that is LinkedIn, YouTube, socials, all of that stuff.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Alex. Like I said at the top of this call, we're gonna send out the full recording of this at the end. So if you missed anything, if you want to go back over anything, please do that, enjoy that. And thanks so much, everyone, for attending. We definitely want to do more of these, so keep an eye on your inboxes and on the Slack community and on our socials. And if you have any feedback, we'd also love to hear that. But yeah, thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time.